Class X Deathworld, announced the holographic projection, floating above what appeared to be a committee of 17 different species, none of which looked particularly impressed with Earth. Jack Fletcher, humanity's first interstellar diplomat, stood uncomfortably in the center of the amphitheater. His suit, Earth's finest, was already damp with sweat under the 3 suns beating through the transparent dome overhead. The atmospheric processors they'd given him wheezed pathetically. Apparently they weren't designed for oxygen levels above 18%. The classification is final, continued Ambassador Nerez, a gelatinous blue entity who communicated through rhythmic ripples across its surface. Your planet harbors over 10,000 lethal toxins, extreme temperature variations, and catastrophic tectonic instability. Not to mention your oceans. "What's wrong with our oceans?" Jack asked. The translator relayed his question, causing several delegates to emit what Jack assumed were gasps, though one appeared to be leaking. "They're filled with dihydrogen monoxide," exclaimed Trill, a fuzzy yellow creature resembling a cross between a squirrel and a chandelier. "A universal solvent known to kill thousands of your species annually." Jack pinched the bridge of his nose. "You mean water?" "We appreciate your presence, Diplomat Fletcher," interrupted Counselor Vrex, an insectoid being with compound eyes that reflected Jack's face back at him 17 times. "But surely you understand our concerns. Your species evolved on a planet where everything, the atmosphere, the flora, the fauna, even the geology, seems designed to kill." "Not designed," Jack corrected. "It's just natural selection." This caused another round of distressed murmurs. "You say that as if it's normal," whispered an arachnid diplomat, each of its 8 legs trembling. "Your species grew up being selected against and survived." "Look," Jack said, trying to sound reasonable, "I get that Earth might seem a bit harsh compared to your worlds. Your microbiome alone contains organisms that would devastate entire ecosystems," interrupted a crystalline entity that communicated through light pulses. "You're essentially walking bioweapons. And yet we're the ones asking to join your coalition," Jack reminded them with a tight smile. "Not planning an invasion." The silence that followed made it clear that several members of the committee had indeed been considering that exact scenario. Jack sighed. The briefing hadn't prepared him for this level of xenophobia. Humanity had finally discovered faster-than-light travel, contacted the Galactic Coalition, and was eager to join the interstellar community. Nobody mentioned they'd be treated like plague rats at a health convention. "Perhaps," suggested Nerez, rippling diplomatically, "we should proceed with the standard evaluation protocols. Diplomat Fletcher will provide us with detailed accounts of Earth's peculiarities. We will determine appropriate safety measures for limited interaction." Jack nodded, resigned to his fate as Earth's explainer-in-chief. As the committee adjourned, he couldn't help but wonder if humans really were as strange as they all seemed to think. The answer, as he would soon discover, was far stranger than anyone, human or alien, could possibly imagine. 3 standard rotations later, Jack found himself in what the translation matrix called the Hall of Mutual Understanding, a grandiose name for what was essentially an interstellar conference room. Representatives from 32 spacefaring civilizations had gathered to debate Earth's potential membership in the coalition. "I still don't understand," said Sorrel, a hive-mind fungal colony arranged in the rough shape of a humanoid. "Your species voluntarily consumes ethanol, a neurotoxin? For pleasure?" "It's called happy hour," Jack explained patiently. "And yes, in moderation." "Moderation," exclaimed Gleep, a levitating ball of plasma contained in an environmental suit. "Your definition of moderation would obliterate my entire consciousness." The debate had been ongoing for hours, with each alien species more horrified than the last by some aspect of human existence. Jack was developing a headache, though whether from the alien atmosphere or the circular conversation was hard to tell. "Ambassador Fletcher," called out Mzik, a tall, elegantly proportioned being with metallic skin that shifted colors with their mood, currently a concerned purple. Is it true humans heal from injuries by growing replacement cells? Automatically? Yes, Jack said cautiously, trying to figure out why this would be controversial. That's how our bodies repair themselves. The room erupted into chaos. Translation devices struggled to keep up with the various exclamations of shock, disgust, and disbelief. Uncontrolled cell replication is considered a fatal disease in most species, explained Counselor Vrex. You're saying humans do this intentionally? It's not like we decide to do it, Jack protested. It just happens. Just happens, echoed Trill, their fur standing on end. Like your bone regeneration? Or your immune system that wages microscopic warfare against invaders? Or your brains that rewire themselves? Jack noticed a pattern forming. Everything humans took for granted from digestion to childbirth seemed to horrify the galactic community. He decided to try a different approach. Look, I get it. Earth is tough compared to your worlds, but that's precisely why humans would make great allies. We're adaptable, resilient. You sleep, interrupted a gaseous entity named Poof, who apparently never did. Your species becomes unconscious for hours every day, lying defenseless, experiencing hallucinations, and you consider this normal. Everyone needs a hobby, Jack muttered. A small, timid creature that resembled a blue teapot with eyes approached Jack cautiously. This was Dr. Quibble, an exobiologist who had been studying Earth transmissions for decades. I've been analyzing your planetary broadcasts, Quibble said, voice barely above a whisper. Your entertainment, these action movies, they depict humans surviving explosions, falls, projectile weapons. Those are fictional, Jack clarified quickly, exaggerated for entertainment. Oh, thank the seven nebulae, sighed Quibble in relief. I mean, real humans couldn't survive a direct explosion, Jack continued. Maybe just the shockwave, depending on distance and whether there's shrapnel involved. Quibble fainted, collapsing into a puddle of blue goo that an assistant quickly scooped into a container. The summit wasn't going well. Earth's admission to the coalition seemed increasingly unlikely as the catalog of human horrors grew. Jack needed a breakthrough, and fast. That breakthrough came in the form of Dr. Lux, a bioluminescent cephalopod-like scientist who floated over to Jack during a recess. Fascinating species, humans, Dr. Lux pulsed, skin flickering with colors Jack's eyes couldn't fully process. Have you ever wondered why Earth developed such extreme conditions? Evolution, Jack said automatically. Natural selection. Yes, Lux's tentacles waved dismissively. But why did evolution take that particular path on your world? Why create beings that can withstand conditions that would annihilate most sentient life? Jack frowned. I never really thought about it. Perhaps you should, Lux suggested, glowing intensely. Because I've been studying ancient archives and Earth wasn't always classified as a death world. Something changed it. Something deliberate. Before Jack could ask what Lux meant, the summit was called back into session, leaving him with an unsettling thought. What if Earth wasn't naturally deadly? What if someone had made it that way? And more importantly, why? You can't be serious, Jack said, staring at the holographic projections floating in Dr. Lux's laboratory. The bioluminescent alien's workspace was a chaotic collection of specimens, data crystals, and what appeared to be partially dissected machinery from a dozen different worlds. I assure you I am entirely serious, Lux replied, tentacles dancing across control interfaces. By your Earth standards, I would be described as dead serious, not joking in the slightest, or perhaps serious as a heart attack, though I still find that last idiom disturbing given what I know about human cardiac function. The holograms showed geological and atmospheric data from Earth spanning billions of years, alongside what appeared to be artificial structures buried deep beneath the planet's crust. These are impossible, Jack insisted. We would have found them. Would you? asked Professor Critt, an archaeologist who resembled a cross between an armadillo and a chandelier. Critt had reluctantly joined their investigation after Lux had promised discoveries that would rewrite galactic history. So far, the professor looked unimpressed and thoroughly uncomfortable around the human. These structures are composed of materials designed to be undetectable to evolving civilizations, Critt explained, keeping a safe distance from Jack. They only become visible once a species develops certain scanning technologies which, coincidentally, humans haven't quite mastered yet. So you're telling me, Jack said slowly, that someone engineered Earth? Deliberately made it a Deathworld? Engineered is perhaps too simplistic. Lux's skin pulsed with academic excitement. Guided would be more accurate. Subtle interventions over billions of years of volcanic eruption here, a meteor impact there, the occasional mass extinction. Occasional mass extinction? Jack repeated incredulously. Critt tapped a claw against what appeared to be their version of a tablet. Your planet has experienced 5 major extinction events. Most habitable worlds experience 1 or 2 at most. And you think these were intentional? The evidence is compelling, Lux confirmed. Each extinction event was followed by a surge in evolutionary innovation, pushing life in specific directions. Toward us, Jack realized. Toward humans. Precisely. Lux's tentacles wiggled in what Jack had learned was their equivalent of an enthusiastic nod. Something was guiding Earth's development toward creating your species. Critt made a skeptical clicking sound. That's Lux's theory anyway. I remain unconvinced that anyone would intentionally create a species that considers capsaicin a chemical defense evolved specifically to cause pain as a food seasoning. Hot sauce is delicious, Jack defended automatically. You voluntarily eat pain, Critt exclaimed, armored plates bristling in distress. Can we focus? Lux interjected. The critical question isn't whether someone engineered Earth. The evidence for that is clear. The question is why? Jack examined the holographic displays again, seeing his homeworld in an entirely new light. These structures, can you tell who built them? Lux dimmed slightly, the equivalent of a frown. That's where things get complicated. The architectural signatures don't match any known species in the Coalition archives. The precursors? Suggested Critt, scientific curiosity momentarily overcoming their fear of standing near Jack. No, Lux flashed decisively. Different methodology entirely. Whoever did this was far more subtle than the precursors. They worked with evolution rather than against it. Jack's head was spinning. All of human history, all of Earth's history was potentially the result of some ancient alien experiment. But why would anyone do this? Create a deadly world that produces yes. Critt made a sound that the translator rendered as a derisive snort. Perhaps it was a containment strategy. Create a world so harsh that its inhabitants could never leave. But we did leave, Jack pointed out. We're here. Yes, Lux pulsed thoughtfully. That's what worries me. A chime sounded from one of Lux's instruments. The alien's color shifted rapidly to alarmed crimson. That's impossible. What is it? Jack asked. I've been running a pattern match on these architectural signatures against restricted archives, Lux explained. I just got a hit. Restricted archives? Critt's plates clacked nervously. Lux, you don't have clearance for those. Sometimes science requires bending rules, Lux replied, unrepentant. Besides, with the fate of a world at stake. The laboratory door burst open. 3 security drones hovered in, followed by Ambassador Nries and 2 stern-looking officials Jack didn't recognize. Dr. Lux, Nries rippled ominously. You have access to classified information without authorization. This investigation ends now. Jack stepped forward. Ambassador, you don't understand. We've found evidence that Earth was. We are well aware of what you've found, Diplomat Fletcher, Nries interrupted. And it is precisely why this information must remain contained. Lux's tentacles curled defensively. The Coalition knew? About Earth's origins? Some matters, Nries replied coldly, are best left undisturbed, for everyone's safety. As security drones moved toward the research consoles, Jack caught a glimpse of the restricted file Lux had accessed. It showed a symbol he'd never seen before, alongside a name, the Architects of Necessity. And beneath it, a simple description that chilled him to the bone, creators of the ultimate weapon. I can't believe we're doing this, Crit whispered, armored plates clacking nervously as they hurried through the maintenance tunnels of the Coalition's central archives. Security violations, restricted data theft, consorting with a Deathworlder. My tenure review committee will have a fit. If it helps, Jack offered, ducking under a low-hanging pipe, on Earth this would make you the cool professor. Lux, gliding ahead of them, flashed patterns of amused blue. Professor Crit has never been cool a day in their life. I've been cool, Crit protested. I once submitted a paper challenging the conventional dating method for pre-coalition settlement patterns. Absolute mad lad, Jack muttered, checking the makeshift map Lux had provided on a stolen data pad. After their confrontation with Ambassador Nries, they'd narrowly escaped the laboratory through what Lux called an emergency research preservation protocol, which, as far as Jack could tell, meant secret escape tunnel for when experiments go horribly wrong. Now they were fugitives, sneaking through the underbelly of the Coalition's massive space station. The central archives should be 2 junctions ahead, Lux pulsed quietly. If my clearance hasn't been fully revoked yet, we might have 4 minutes to access the restricted files before security responds. And if your clearance has been revoked? Jack asked. No. Then security responds immediately, Lux replied cheerfully. And we spend the next several cycles in separate detention cells being aggressively debriefed. Wonderful, Crit groaned. They reached a sealed door marked with symbols Jack's translator couldn't process. Lux pressed a gelatinous tentacle against the scanner. One tense moment passed, then another. The door slid open. Quickly, Lux urged, darting inside. The system is giving me researcher under duress exceptions. Won't last long. The archive room was massive, a spherical chamber with data interfaces floating at various levels. Lux immediately headed for a central terminal, tentacles dancing across controls too fast for Jack to follow. Keep watch, Lux instructed Crit, who reluctantly positioned themselves near the door. What exactly are we looking for? Jack asked, struggling to make sense of the alien data streams flowing across the screens. Everything the Coalition knows about the Architects of Necessity, Lux replied, focused on the terminal, and why they might have engineered Earth. The screens suddenly flashed red, and alarms began to wail. That's not good, Jack observed unnecessarily. No, it's not, Lux agreed, tentacles working frantically. But I've almost there. The terminal projected a holographic image of Earth, surrounded by complex diagrams and text. But Jack couldn't read the alien script, but recognized the geological timeline of his planet with thousands of markers indicating interventions. Download everything, he urged. Already doing it, Lux confirmed, a data crystal glowing in one tentacle. But the security systems are. The archive door slammed shut, trapping them inside. Environmental controls flashed as the atmosphere began to change. They're flooding the room with neutralization gas. Crit panicked, plates fully extended in alarm. Which does what exactly? Jack asked, already reaching for his emergency breathing apparatus. For them, unconsciousness, Lux explained rapidly. For you. Let me guess, Jack sighed. Death? Not necessarily. Lux hurriedly adjusted settings on Jack's atmospheric processor. This should convert the compounds to something merely uncomfortable for human physiology. You'll experience temporary symptoms similar to your Earth condition, extremely bad hangover. So, Tuesday, Jack muttered, strapping the modified device to his face. A new alarm blared, this one deeper and more urgent. Secondary security protocol, Crit explained, backing away from the door. They're sending in containment drones. The walls opened, revealing compartments housing spherical robots that hummed ominously as they activated. I need 30 more seconds, Lux called, still downloading data. You've got 15, Jack replied, grabbing what looked like a metal rod from a nearby workstation. Crit, any advice on fighting these things? Don't, the professor squeaked. They're designed to subdue without harming most species, but for a Deathworlder like you. They'll use lethal force, Jack guessed. Crit's translator struggled with their response, finally settling on, more like extreme overkill. The first drone launched itself at Jack, who swung the metal rod like a baseball bat. The impact sent painful vibrations up his arms but knocked the drone against the wall. Hey, he exclaimed. Not so tough. The drone immediately righted itself, undamaged, and projected what appeared to be a targeting grid. Oh, come on. 3 more drones joined the first, surrounding Jack as they adjusted their tactics. Behind him, Lux was frantically completing the download while Crit had wedged themselves into a corner, armored plates fully deployed in defensive position. Got it, Lux announced triumphantly, yanking the data crystal free. At that exact moment, the drones fired, but instead of weapons, they released a cloud of shimmering particles that hung in the air around Jack. What is this? He coughed, waving his hand through the cloud. Nanite restraints, Crit explained, still cowering. Don't let them touch your skin. Too late. The particles were already settling on Jack's exposed hands and face, hardening instantly into a crystalline shell. This is bad, Jack managed before the restraints covered his mouth. Actually, Lux said thoughtfully, floating over with the data crystal safely tucked away, this is quite fortunate. Before Jack could express his profound disagreement through muffled sounds, Lux pressed a tentacle against the shell covering Jack's arm. The nanites reacted instantly, but instead of restraining the alien, they began to dissolve, breaking down into a bubbling sludge that dripped to the floor. Fascinating, Lux observed. Just as I suspected. The restraints were calibrated for standard biochemistry. Human proteins are triggering a dissolution cascade. The nanites continued to fail spectacularly, releasing Jack and spreading their malfunction to the nearby drones, which began to spark and twitch. We need to move, Lux urged, heading for a maintenance hatch. The dissolution won't affect the primary security systems. As they escaped through the hatch, Jack couldn't help asking, did you know that would happen? Let's say I had a strong hypothesis, Lux replied, skin pulsing with what might have been smugness. Human biochemistry is remarkably disruptive to coalition technology. Almost as if. As if what? Jack prompted, helping Crit squeeze through the narrow passage. As if you were designed to be, Lux finished quietly. Back in the tunnels, they paused to examine what Lux had stolen. The data crystal projected images that made Jack's blood run cold, ancient battle scenes, devastated worlds, and creatures unlike anything he'd ever imagined. The architects created Earth as a weapon forge, Lux explained solemnly. And humans are the weapons. Against what? Jack asked. The final image appeared, a vast darkness spreading between stars, consuming everything in its path. Against that, Lux answered. The Devourers. A threat the Coalition has been hiding for centuries, a threat they thought extinct. But according to these readings, they're coming back. So let me get this straight, Jack said, pacing the small confines of the maintenance crawlspace they'd converted into a temporary hideout. An ancient civilization called the Architects of Necessity engineered Earth as a weapons factory. Humans are the weapons. And we're supposed to fight some cosmic horror called the Devourers that even the Coalition is terrified of? That summarizes the situation succinctly, Lux confirmed, tentacles manipulating the data displays projected from the stolen crystal. Crit, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke up. You've missed the most disturbing part. Please, Jack gestured expansively. Do tell me what could possibly be more disturbing than learning my entire species was created as cannon fodder for an intergalactic war. The architects lost, Crit said simply. Whatever these Devourers are, they wiped out the civilization that was advanced enough to engineer an entire planet across billions of years. The architects are gone. Extinct. A heavy silence fell over their hiding place. Well, Jack finally said, that's certainly a confidence booster. Lux pulsed with what the translator rendered as a grim chuckle. Your species' tendency towards sarcasm in the face of existential dread, another engineered trait, perhaps? Along with our charming good looks and ability to digest lactose, Jack muttered, studying the holographic data. But I still don't understand. How exactly are humans supposed to fight these Devourers? We don't have vastly superior technology. We don't have psychic powers. We're just particularly hardy mammals who refuse to stop climbing things we shouldn't. That's precisely it. Lux's skin brightened with academic excitement. Look at the pattern of Earth's development. Every catastrophe, every extinction event, every environmental challenge, they all pushed evolution toward creating adaptable, resilient, problem-solving organisms. Beings that could survive in almost any environment. That could think creatively under pressure. That could endure, Crit finished quietly. The architects weren't building superweapons. They were creating survivors. Jack stared at the images floating before him, simulations of the Devourers moving through space, consuming energy and matter alike, leaving nothing behind. What exactly are these things? The files don't seem very specific. That's because the Coalition doesn't fully understand them, Lux explained. The records suggest they exist partially outside our dimensional reality, making them difficult to observe or combat using conventional means. Great, Jack sighed. So we're fighting interdimensional shadow monsters. With what? Pointed sticks? Lux's tentacles rippled in what might have been embarrassment. Actually, the files indicate that human physiology itself is the weapon. Come again? Yan. Your bodies, Crit elaborated reluctantly, contain trace elements and compounds arranged in patterns that are theoretically harmful to devourer physiology. You're essentially walking biological disruptors. Jack processed this information slowly. You're saying humans are toxic to these things? More than toxic, Lux corrected. Fatal. Your biochemistry, your neural patterns, even your genome, all carefully crafted over billions of years to be the perfect counter to devourer biology. The perfect predator for the perfect predator, Crit added. Jack sank down onto what passed for a seat in their hideout. This is why the Coalition was so afraid of us. Not because we're dangerous in general, but because we're specifically dangerous to these Devourers, creatures they've been hiding from everyone. Precisely, Lux confirmed. The Coalition discovered Earth centuries ago but quarantined it, classifying it as a Deathworld to keep everyone away. They recognized the architect's handiwork but didn't want to acknowledge the reason for it because that would mean admitting the Devourers might return. Alarm suddenly blared from Lux's equipment. The alien skin paled dramatically. What is it? Jack demanded. Long-range sensors, Lux explained, tentacles moving frantically across controls. They're detecting dimensional disturbances at the edge of Coalition space. Patterns matching historical records of devourer activity. They're here, Crit whispered, plates clattering in fear. After all this time. Jack stared at the readings, watching as multiple points of darkness appeared on the galactic map. How long do we have? Days, Lux answered grimly. Perhaps hours. Then we need to get to the Coalition Council, Jack decided, standing up. Now. Yo. Are you insane? Crit protested. They'll arrest us immediately. Probably, Jack agreed. But they need to know what's coming and that humans might be the only thing that can stop it. Lux studied Jack with multifaceted eyes that seemed to see more than just his physical form. The architects chose well, the alien observed quietly. You truly are the perfect weapon not because you're deadly, but because you refuse to accept defeat. That's not being a weapon, Jack corrected, gathering their evidence. That's being human. As they prepared to surrender themselves to coalition authorities, Jack couldn't help but appreciate the cosmic irony Earth, long feared as a planet that could kill anything, had actually been designed to create the one species that could save everything. Jack stood before the assembled coalition council no longer as a prisoner, but as humanity's official representative. 2 standard rotations had passed since their dramatic revelation about the Devourers, and the political landscape had shifted with dizzying speed. To summarize, Jack concluded his presentation. Earth is prepared to commit our full resources to the defense of coalition space. Our ships can carry mixed crews of humans and coalition specialists to the dimensional breach points. According to Dr. Lux's simulations, even a small human presence should disrupt Devourer materialization. The council chamber, once filled with whispers of fear whenever humans were mentioned, now hummed with cautious hope. Ambassador Nees rippled formally. The coalition acknowledges Earth's unique position in this crisis. However, there are concerns about introducing humans throughout coalition space. Your species remains highly disruptive to many environments. You mean we're still too scary? Jack translated bluntly. Frankly, yes, Counselor Vrex admitted, compound eyes reflecting the holographic displays of approaching Devourer signatures. Many worlds fear that the cure may be worse than the disease. Jack smiled thinly. Then it's fortunate that we come with an expiration date. Confused murmurs spread through the chamber. Explain, demanded Nerez. The architects designed humans to be effective against Devourers, but they weren't stupid, Jack explained. According to Dr. Lux's analysis of our genetic code, once the Devourer threat is eliminated, certain elements of human physiology will naturally attenuate over generations. Will gradually become more compatible with standard galactic biology. Dr. Lux, now appointed head of the hastily formed Devourer Defense Initiative, pulsed confirmation. Human biochemistry is remarkably dynamic. Without the evolutionary pressures of Earth or the presence of Devourers, humans will naturally adapt toward galactic norms. So you won't always be, Counselor Vrex searched for a diplomatic term. Walking biohazards? Jack suggested helpfully. Exactly. Give us a few thousand years, and we'll be just as boring as the rest of you. This elicited what Jack had learned to recognize as laughter from several council members, a promising sign. In the meantime, Jack continued, we have terms for our assistance. The chamber quieted immediately. Terms? Nerez rippled cautiously. Nothing unreasonable, Jack assured them. Earth wants full coalition membership, with all associated benefits. Cultural exchange programs. Technology sharing with appropriate safety protocols, of course. And reclassification of Earth from Deathworld to something a bit more flattering. Such as? Prompted Crit, who had been appointed as the archaeological liaison to the human delegation, much to their initial horror and eventual resignation. Jack grinned. I was thinking Guardian World has a nice ring to it. The council chamber erupted into debate, but Jack could sense the outcome was already decided. The approaching Devourers had eliminated any real choice in the matter. Hours later, as the newly formalized treaties were being processed, Jack found himself on an observation deck overlooking the vast coalition station. Lux floated beside him, tentacles gently undulating in contemplation. You handled that remarkably well, the alien scientist observed. The Council rarely concedes so much so quickly. Nothing motivates cooperation like imminent annihilation, Jack replied, watching as ships from dozens of worlds prepared for the coming conflict. Among them were the first vessels from Earth, already being retrofitted with coalition technology. Still, Lux pulsed thoughtfully, I sense there's something you haven't shared with the Council. Jack smiled slightly. You're very perceptive for someone without a spine. A vertebral column is highly overrated, Lux replied dryly. What are you hiding, Jack Fletcher? Jack turned from the viewport, making sure they couldn't be overheard. The architects didn't just make us toxic to devourers. According to the data we found, they designed humans to do something much more important after the devourers are defeated. Which is? Prevent them from ever returning, Jack said quietly. The architects knew the devourers would eventually adapt to any single countermeasure. So they built into humanity a capacity for continuous innovation, adaptation, even enhancement. We're not just the weapon, we're the shield. The guardians who are supposed to keep watching the dimensional boundaries long after everyone else has forgotten. Lux's skin darkened with concern. You're suggesting humans are designed to become as powerful as the architects themselves? Eventually, Jack nodded. Which explains why the Council was so afraid of us. On some level, they sensed what we were meant to become. And you didn't share this with them? Jack shrugged. Some truths are better revealed gradually. Besides, we've got a more immediate apocalypse to prevent. A chime sounded throughout the station, the signal for final preparations. The first Devourer incursion was expected within hours. I should join the defense coordination team, Lux said, turning to leave. Good luck, Jack Fletcher. Lux, Jack called after the retreating alien. One last thing. The architects, do we know why they went to such elaborate lengths? They could have built super weapons, automated defenses. Why create an entire species to fight their battles? Lux paused, tentacles curling thoughtfully. The records suggest they tried those approaches first. They all failed. In their final transmission, decoded from the Earth archives, they explained their reasoning. Only life can truly defend life. As Lux departed, Jack turned back to the viewport, watching the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, the darkness was coming, a hunger that had once devoured even the mighty architects. And standing against it was humanity, a species forged in the crucible of a world designed to create survivors. They had called Earth a Deathworld, never wondering who it was designed to destroy. Now they knew. And ironically, that made humanity the galaxy's best hope for life.